Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I wasn't planning on making this video, but I've been getting into Magic the Gathering, and we talked a fair amount about the Spider-Man set. And as you know, I'm going to be showing my complete set of the Spider-Man bonus cards, which have the original Marvel art from the comics on it. But as part of this, as a surprise, the people at Wizards of the Coast who make the Magic the Gathering game announced the first cards for the upcoming Marvel Superheroes set, which is basically the broader Marvel universe, specifically the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, their villains. The Heroes for Hire are going to be in it. So it's sort of everything other than like the cosmic, the supernatural, the X-Men, and Spider-Man. They're all going to be in this Marvel Superheroes set. And that's not coming out until June 26th of 2026. But for some reason here, the beginning of December, they decided to do a reveal where they showed off the first cards, and I'm super stoked for them. And I thought that some of you would find this interesting here. I'm going to go over the cards. I'm going to show you the regular versions of the cards. They've also revealed some of the special comic cover treatments and some of the original comic art treatments for the bonus sheet cards. But it's also interesting to see some of the work that the people at Magic the Gathering are doing. The Magic the Gathering has a specific art style. It's a very sort of painterly, realistic style. Like if you imagine like high-end fantasy book covers, it's that sort of style. And they're translating that into the Marvel universe with some interesting results, some really cool looking artwork, some artwork that just doesn't quite look right with the comic characters. So it's interesting to see people working that are normally working in a totally different field come over into the comic field. But there's a couple of these we'll see here where they are done in comic style, and there are comic creators that you'll know who are working on some of these cards with new art that wasn't from the comics but are made specifically for these cards. So it's a really interesting collaboration and mix, and I'm really excited for the cards and to play with these cards. So I'm going to show the cards up on the screen, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit in terms of both the comic side and the Magic the Gathering side. So we're going to start, of course, with Captain America Super Soldier. Now, Captain America Super Soldier, you can see the card here. I got the regular version of the card, but I also really am stoked for the comic cover treatment. Now, these are going to be super rare treatments that you can probably only get in the collector booster packs. That's what they did with Spider-Man. And as you can see here, for that, they've chosen to go with the cover of Captain America 193, which is an all-time classic Jack Kirby cover from the mid-1970s. After Kirby had left for DC, comes back. Of course, Kirby co-created Captain America in 1941. And this is his first issue back on the series after being off it for many years. And this is an iconic Captain America cover. It's an interesting choice because when they were doing some of the previous covers and some of the ones I'll show you coming up in a minute, they've tended to do first issues or first appearances. I did not expect them to use the Captain America Comics #1 cover from Captain America's first appearance and his first issue, because it's got Hitler on the cover and it's got swastikas on the cover. So didn't expect that. Figured that was going to be a no-go. I was curious to see what they were going to pick. I thought they might go with issue 100, but this is a really good pick, and I'm really excited to get this. I also think the card's pretty cool. You can see here he's a human soldier hero. They're doing a new thing in this run of cards here, starting with the Spider-Man set where hero is a creature type, and this set is clearly doing a heroes matter thing and also a villains matter, because there's villain types, which we'll see. And if Captain America has his shield represented by the shield counter, then it gives all of your other heroes hexproof, meaning all the other heroes that you haven't played can't be targeted by anything. It's a really fun representation of how Captain America works. I think flavor-wise it's good. It's not the most exciting card. The previous version of Captain America that they released only in a secret lair that you had to buy special you'd get a special order from them directly called Captain America: The First Avenger. That was a flavor bomb. Now that had Flavor Win all over it. Because that had abilities that reflected him throwing his shield and catching his shield, and it was just perfect. This is a different take on that. It's really good as well. It's just not quite as flavorful or as powerful. But one thing I want to note here is that it is called Captain America Super Soldier. And like I just mentioned, the previous one was called Captain America First Avenger. They haven't actually revealed a card that's just called Captain America yet. I have a guess that at some point before this collaboration is over, there will be a card just called Captain America, which is unique from those other cards, because as we're going to see going forward, there are cards that are just called the Incredible Hulk, or just called Doctor Doom, and the fact that they're making these different versions that are Captain America in different phases of his career tells me that they're probably saving that for something. Specifically, why don't we go right to the next card I want to show, which is Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk. Now, this is a flip card. You can play it on one side as Bruce Banner or as the other side as the Incredible Hulk. So I'm going to show you both sides here from, again, this is the classic comic art. This is going to be the super rare variant, which has a panel by Jack Kirby of Bruce Banner when the explosion goes off. For comic fans, this is an iconic panel when the Gamma Bomb goes off. And you can play him as Bruce Banner if you want that ability. Or you could play him as the Incredible Hulk, or you could do both. If you play him as Banner, you can then transform him later in the game and have him turn into Hulk. And the Hulk side is represented by the cover of Incredible Hulk #1, first issue, first appearance, 1962. Again, a Kirby cover. So this is great. People who've watched my comic book videos know I'm not a fan of the Incredible Hulk, but this card's super powerful. Of all the cards they revealed here, unquestionably the Hulk is the one that gets the most hype, because there's certain pretty easy things you can do to make him turn into an infinite combo that basically wins you the game. And he's got a really cool flavor on him as well, which is he's like a giant monster, and he has an ability called Enrage. And if he gets damaged while he's attacking someone, he attacks again. And you can do that an infinite number of times. So if he keeps getting damaged while he's attacking people, he keeps attacking because he gets angry and angry. Every time he takes damage, he also gets bigger. So I think this is a great card, great flavor win, very powerful, has some very easy combos. I'm going to show you the regular version of the card. Here's just the Incredible Hulk version of the card. The Bruce Banner side is fine. It's Banner in a lab. But for those of you who are comic people, I think you'll appreciate this artwork because this is a great representation of Hulk as far as I'm concerned. Again, this is done sort of in the Magic the Gathering house style, but it looks really cool to me. Before we move on to the next hero that's got the special treatment cards, I did want to show another card that's been getting a ton of hype from the ones they revealed. And again, it's another Hulk card. So I thought it would make sense to show it here. It's World War Hulk. So I'll show that on the screen. There's two versions of it. There's the regular version, and then there's the version that we're all going to want, which is the comic panel version, where they've done, these are called sagas, and so they do a different thing on each turn that it's in play. And so it tells the story, in this case, of what happened in World War Hulk through Magic the Gathering mechanics. And they've done a great thing with these, starting with Spider-Man, with the saga comic panel variants, where they're drawn to look like comic book panels. It works perfectly for sagas, and it really feels like you're reading a comic when you're playing the game. I'm not a big fan of Hulk, and I didn't really like World War Hulk. I don't like the Illuminati. I will say that I thought the Planet Hulk storyline before this was super cool. This is a rare time when I was actually reading the Hulk, which I won't get into that story. But this is another really powerful card. When it comes into play, it basically allows you to then immediately play another creature, any red or green creature from your hand for free. And so it allows you to cheat into play some huge monsters very early. You can use it to put the Hulk into play if you want as well, which would be the most thematically appropriate. But it's a really good card. I love that they're bringing back the sagas, and specifically the comic sagas, because for me, that was the best thing in the Spider-Man set. I love these sagas. I love reading the comic panels. It really makes you feel like you've got a miniature comic book version of the stories. They only did 5 of these in the Spider-Man set, 1 for each color, but they've already revealed 2 so far. They only revealed 14 cards from out of the 280 something that are going to be in this set. And they've already revealed 2 sagas. We'll see another one later, and one of them is a multicolored saga. So it's obvious there's going to be more than 5. I'm hoping that there'll be like 15. There's so many classic storylines in comics that I feel like all the major characters and all the major teams that are represented in this set should have saga cards to go over at least one of their classic storylines, and in some cases, how are you going to narrow it down? You should have multiple. So the more sagas, the better. And this is a really great one. Next up, we've got the Submariner, and now in this set, the Submariner has got a subtype. This is really interesting. Creatures in Magic only have 3 subtypes available, and Namor really needed 4, because what they ended up going with here is mutant, merfolk, villain. So in the Magic the Gathering set, Namor is not a hero. He is a villain. So if you're playing a villain strategy, he fits into that. But more importantly, he fits into a merfolk strategy. Merfolks have been a popular tribe of cards to play in Magic since the 90s. When I started playing back in 1994, people were already trying to make merfolk decks work, and there's been hundreds of merfolk that have come out since. This is one of the best. Namor is great. He's got flying because of the little wings on his feet. That's the mutation for those of you who aren't comic book fans. The reason he's a mutant, he's got those wings. Similar to Aquaman, who is more famous now. Namor, his parents, one was human and one was from Atlantis. And Namor actually debuted a couple years before Aquaman. So this is original to Namor, not to Aquaman. Aquaman ripped everything off of Namor. But he's got a great thing when you cast any blue spells, he creates more merfolk, and then he gets bigger and more powerful the more merfolk you have. So the more Atlanteans that you have helping Namor, the stronger and stronger he gets, and he summons more and more of them to help him. So it's a great flavor card, but it's a really powerful Magic card. And it has this great treatment. Now this is the cover of Namor the Submariner #1 from 1968, a John Buscema cover. Great classic cover. Again, interesting that they went with this cover. It is a #1 issue, but of course he had his own series back in the 1940s, which they could have also chosen, but they're clearly choosing to go more with the Marvel Universe version, since that was sort of a precursor. Great card, great looking card. Before we move on from Namor, I did want to mention that they also revealed an Attuma. So Attuma is Namor's arch enemy. But in this case, in the world of Magic, they're both classified as villains. They're both classified as merfolk, and they both have abilities that affect other merfolk and are boosted by other merfolk. And so in the world of Magic the Gathering, Attuma and Namor work together perfectly. Whereas in the comics, they're mortal archenemies. So that is a little bit strange for me. That's, I think, one of the byproducts of them choosing to make Namor a villain, and just some of the creative choices there. And for me, it's not super flavorful for Attuma, but also in terms of Magic cards, Attuma is an uncommon, whereas Namor is a mythic rare. So the design on Attuma is always going to be less interesting and less powerful because it's a more common card, right? Finally, I want to show off from this batch here of the cards that have the cool treatment covers. It is Doctor Doom. So the cover here, it's from Marvel Superheroes number 20. It's the first solo Doom cover. The first comic that had the Doctor Doom logo and just Doom on the cover. Obviously, he was in a lot of Fantastic Four stuff and Fantastic Four annuals that they could have chosen. But I think this is a great choice. A comic that really wasn't of much value until the last, say, 4 or 5 years. You could have picked it up very cheaply at any point in the last several decades, but now it's become a collector thing because it's the first issue of Doctor Doom in the Solo series. In terms of the card, it's somewhat flavorful, but I don't think it's that interesting. When Doctor Doom comes into play, he comes into play with 2 Doom bots. So you put out 2 token robots that are the same size as Doctor Doom, so they look like Doctor Doom. And as long as you have an artifact creature like the Doom bots or a plan in play, Doctor Doom is indestructible. So if he's got Doom bots, he can't be destroyed because one of the Doom bots is getting into the neck instead. Or if he's working on a plan, he can't be destroyed either because, of his machinations. He also has a thing where at the end of your turn, you lose a life and you draw a card, which is a classic black ability in black magic cards, which you're evil. So you're like sacrificing stuff to get more power, right? So it's all on point flavor-wise. I just don't think it's that interesting. It's also very expensive to cast. I suspect, again, that there might be other versions of Doctor Doom coming. It's just a guess. I've seen a lot of people online that are like, oh, he should have had the wizard subtype because, he's, in addition to being the tech guy, he's also a powerful sorcerer in the comics. People are like, why doesn't he have the wizard subtype? It's a little plain. But this is just Doctor Doom. I just have a guess that at some point, I could be way off base, we're going to get a card that's something like Doctor Doom Sorcerer Supreme, that is going to be a multicolored card where he's a wizard, where he's what they call Dimir. So it'll be not just a straight black card, but it'll be black and also blue, which represents intellect and magic and stuff like that. And that he's going to have different abilities that lean into the magic side of things. Just a guess. But like I said with Captain America, some of these characters have multiple cards with multiple versions, and the different names of the cards designate, what they are. So this is just base Doctor Doom. I think we may see another Doctor Doom later. Not super interesting design for this, perfectly fine, but I mentioned plan. So let's look at the plan card that they revealed, because this is a really good card and it's very flavorful for Doctor Doom. It specifically works with the Doctor Doom card. It's called Doom Reign Supreme. Look at this super cool artwork on this card. Again, it'd be really interesting, I think, for comic fans to see some of these representations of the Marvel characters in an art style that they are not normally portrayed. And this is a great looking card of Doctor Doom grabbing the Earth. And this is an enchantment, but it's a new thing called a plan subtype. And it says, whenever a villain you control enters, blah, blah, blah. An opponent loses life, you put a plan counter on it, and then when you have 5 plan counters on it, so when 5 villains have come into play, you basically exile the top 5 cards of your opponent's library, and you can cast 2 of them yourself without paying the mana cost. So I think this is a great card. It works perfectly with Doctor Doom, because when Doctor Doom comes into play, he summons the 2 Doombot, which are artifact, and I'm pretty sure that they're robots, villains. Let me just double check this. Yes, they're robot villains. So if you have this out and Doctor Doom comes into play, he brings in Doombots. That counts for 3 of the 5 villains that you need. And you can have a couple turns in between putting this out and putting out Doctor Doom. So you could very easily bring out another couple of villains, and then Doctor Doom basically shows up and triggers his plans using his Doombots. So flavor-wise, it's great. The card's very powerful. We haven't revealed enough villains to see just how viable the villains are going to be, but there were a number of villains in the Spider-Man set. Most of them had black in their color identity, so they will go with Doctor Doom in these sets. So I think we're building towards something. There's another villain I'm going to show you in a second that's really powerful as well. And to set that up, let's look at this next card, which is called the Thunderbolts Conspiracy. Now, this is Thunderbolts from the comics, not Thunderbolts from the movie. The set, while there are some nods to the movies, this is all from the comics. And so the classic Thunderbolts story was the Masters of Evil, which are the arch rivals of the Avengers. When the Avengers had disappeared and were presumed dead, the Thunderbolts suddenly appeared as the new heroes for America, and it turns out it was actually the Masters of Evil disguising themselves as heroes to get into different nefarious things, to weasel their way into power. And so that's what this card does. It says whenever a villain dies, return it to the battlefield, but now it's a hero in addition to its other types. And you can, it's a very cool card in terms of Magic. You can play it in response to a board wipe if someone's killing all your villains. Since this has flash, you can play it at any time. You can pop it out and save them all. So it's great. It's really great flavor wise, because this is essentially what happens in the comics. Some of them pretend to be heroes, but they're still villains, and they keep their original subtype on this card. And then some of them end up actually becoming heroes, and they just have the villain. They used to be villains, so that's still part of their past. But either way, excellent card, great design, and that goes right into the next card. Another villain is Baron Helmut Zemo. Now, I've got to admit, I don't recognize this costume. I have a little bit of trouble because I'm colorblind. Like, the Captain America card looked really cool where he was punching that guy, but I couldn't tell who he was supposed to be punching. I've been told that it was a Hydra guy, and you could see the green H on that guy's chest. Man, I couldn't see that, but I'm colorblind. I couldn't see the green. I thought that guy's costume was rad. I thought he was punching out Daredevil. Same thing with Baron Helmut Zemo. This is not a costume I'm familiar with for Zemo. You know, I haven't really been reading Marvel for the past 15 years or so. I've read all of Zemo's appearances, you know, from his first appearance in Captain America 168 when he was called the Phoenix, up until, you know, the year 2000 whenever it was I stopped reading Thunderbolts. So for those 35 years, yeah, okay. But I don't know. I don't recognize this costume. It's not a very interesting costume to me. And because I think of the color blindness, the art here is a little dark for me. I have a hard time really seeing everything just because there's not enough contrast. But it's a cool artwork, and it's a really cool design. And basically, whenever you cast a black spell from your hand, Baron Helmut Zemo connives. It's a perfect mechanic in Magic to bring back for villains, because there's this existing from previous Magic sets called Connive, where you draw a card and then you discard a card, and then it makes your character more powerful if you discard something that's a spell. And so whenever you cast a spell, Baron Helmut Zemo connives, and he gets more powerful. And then he has an ability called Boast, which is when if he's attacked, he can boast that he's going to do something. And in this case, if you've got 15 in your graveyard, if you've discarded enough cards from his conniving, that you have enough cards there where there's 15 of the black mana pips. Like, you see on his card, he's got 3 pips. In your graveyard, if you've got 15, then he can boast that he's about to do something. And then you'll be able to cast 3 of those cards out of your graveyard for free. So it's really fun. I love the flavor, and I love it's a great mix of existing Magic mechanics and keywords to add flavor to a new character in a new universe being used, because connive and boast are just the perfect mechanics to go with these supervillains, and the fact that they already existed in the game is absolutely great. I've got a couple sort of random cards from the set to go over, and then we're going to get into the Fantastic Four pre-con, which I want to talk about quite a bit. So, Quicksilver, Brash Blur. Quicksilver is a fun card. It's basically, in Magic terms, it's what's called a ley line. It's a card where if you have it in your opening hand, you can start with it out in play without having to cast it. This is the first time they've ever allowed a creature to have that ability, though, so it's a new thing opening the doors. I love the idea. It's basically the Quicksilver is so fast that he starts playing before the game begins. So that's great flavor. Not a fan of the artwork. Again, I haven't been reading Marvel stuff in about 15 years, but this is not the Quicksilver that I remember. He's like leaning in and doing this and clowning around and running around. You know, he seems to, I don't know, he's waving a donut at somebody or something. I mean, he looks more like Bart Allen or Wally West in this, because Quicksilver in the comics that I remember him being in is a notorious stick up the butt jerk who's ultra serious all the time. So this is weird in terms of the artwork. I don't get it, but the card itself is really cool. Then we've got Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Very sort of realistic. You can tell that the artist used a 3D modeler to do the artwork for Devil Dinosaur. It's such a stark contrast, this artwork, compared to the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur artwork from the comic, which is a much more sort of stylized, kids sort of simplified comic art. So this is a little bit wild. But it's a very powerful card, and basically, when you have an artifact come into play, you draw a card. So that's a Moon Girl tinkering and making her stuff. And then whenever you draw your second card on the turn, their power and toughness becomes 6/6, and they gain trample. So she creates some kind of artifact that summons Devil Dinosaur, and then he eats people. So the flavor win, it's a very powerful card, but not overpowered, because that's only going to trigger, it's only become a really huge 6/6 monster when you've managed to trigger it by drawing 2 cards in a turn. So the rest of the time it's just going to be a 2/2, which is just her, and that's easy to kill. So very strong, potentially fast card, very interesting design. I like it a lot. Then we've got the Sentry. I'm not a fan of the Sentry as a character. He was brought into the Avengers during my least favorite era of all time, which I won't go on a rant about. But that was my introduction to the character. So I've just never liked the Sentry. Is fine in the Thunderbolts movie, but I'm just not a fan. This is a really cool card. It's a great flavor, again, to capture the way the Sentry works. So he's really overpowered for his cost. So he's 5/5, which is big, flying, vigilance, indestructible, and he only costs 4 mana. So that stat line is absolutely crazy, right? Here's the drawback. When the Sentry comes into play, target opponent creates the Void, a legendary 5/5 black horror villain creature token with flying, indestructible, and the Void attacks each combat if able. So I think this is a really cool card. It's a great flavor win. When the Sentry comes into play, he's incredibly powerful. The only problem is that he's got the split personality, and it summons the Void, who is also an incredibly powerful evil presence. They work together perfectly here. The Void has to attack every turn. The Sentry, on the other hand, has Vigilance, which means when he attacks, he doesn't tap, so he can still block on his own turn. So if the Void is attacking you, you can always block with the Sentry, and they just bounce off each other because they're both indestructible. Where this card really shines is in the Commander format, where you have 4 players. If you're playing 2 players and you put out the Sentry, your opponent gets the Void, it's a bit of a trade. You get a little bit of the better end of the deal with the Sentry, but you're kind of still on even footing, right? But when you're playing in a 4-player game, you've got a 5/5 flyer. One of your opponents has a 5/5 flyer. Then there's 2 other dudes who don't have it, or people, or ladies. Whoever you're playing against, those other 2, they don't have it. So it's great for politicking, because you can, make deals with people. If I'll give you the 5/5 Void or whatever. So it's a great politic weapon. It also just puts a ton of power that needs to be dealt with quickly on the table, facing other people. So I think it's a very strong card for Commander. I'm not sure I would personally build it as my Commander, but as a card in the 99, I think it's really good. So finally, let's talk about the Fantastic Four. Now, they've announced there's going to be 4 Commander Precon decks. So you'll have 4 decks specifically designed for Commander, which is 100 cards. And there's going to be, you can buy them with all the cards you need to get ready and play. It's a perfect way for people that haven't played Magic to get into it. I mean, Commander is a more complicated format than the regular formats. But you can buy one of these. If you like the Fantastic Four, you're curious what it's all about. You can buy the Fantastic Four Precon, and you'll have what you need to play. And they have not announced what the other 3 Precons are going to be. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess one of them has got to be the Avengers, and then the other 2. A lot of interesting possibilities. They revealed in the original teaser artwork for this set that the Heroes for Hire are going to be in there. They showed what appeared to be a card called Heroes for Hire. It was a group shot of the whole team. I would be a little surprised if they did a Heroes for Hire set, but if they're doing, say, each of the 4 Precons is a different superhero team, we know the X-Men are not going to be in this. I could see a world where the Precons of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the Defenders, and Heroes for Hire. It's possible. I think it's fairly unlikely. Much as I would love to see a Defenders Precon here, we haven't really seen any sign that there's going to be any kind of the cosmic or mystical sides of Marvel. We do have a little thing I'll show you in a minute with Galactus, but for the most part, we're not really seeing like people like the Guardians of the Galaxy or the space stuff. But we're also not really seeing, as I mentioned previously, there's no sign of things like Doctor Strange and other mystical parts of the Marvel universe. For instance, they revealed that they've already revealed that there's no Ghost Rider card in this set. And of course, there's definitely going to be a Ghost Rider card at some point. So it's a little bit of a puzzle what's going to be coming out in the future. There's clearly going to be an X-Men set, but it seems like there might be another set that's maybe got both the cosmic and the mystical stuff in one sort of like the weird side of Marvel. I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly. And of course, the classic Defenders team, it's got Namor the Submariner and the Incredible Hulk, who we've already seen here, but it's got to have Doctor Strange and the Silver Surfer in it for it to really be a Defenders team. So I'd be a little surprised. I've got a hunch that maybe one of the Precons isn't going to be a superhero team, but it's going to be a super villain group or just a super villain themed deck. Could be a Masters of Evil. They could do a Thunderbolts deck. We've already seen the Thunderbolts conspiracy card. So we'll be really curious to see. But they have revealed Fantastic Four. Now, it's the very interesting card design. First of all, let me show you the Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic to start with. Usually, Magic they don't do a lot of 4-color commanders. They'll do a lot of 3-color and a lot of 5-color. But for some reason, they're hesitant to do 4. But all the Fantastic Four are 4 colors in their color identity. Each one of them represents a different color in the Magic color wheel. So Sue is white, Reed is blue, the Human Torch is red. We'll see these in a minute. The Human Torch is red, the Thing is green, and all the cards have a very similar design. If you've cast a spell in your first main phase, so before you go to combat, if you've cast a spell, you get to do something from that color scheme. So in the case of the Invisible Woman, at the beginning of combat, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you create a 0/3 colorless wall creature token with Defender and Reach. So basically, if you do something before combat, Sue creates a force field, and she'll do that every turn. And then she has a second ability. Whenever you attack, you may pay red, green, white, and blue, one for each of the members of the Fantastic Four. When you do, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each creature you control and can't be blocked. So she turns them invisible, and then they run in and hit the bad guy. And each of them has an ability like that. So for Mr. Fantastic, it says if you've he's got vigilance and reach. Of course, he has reach because of his stretchy abilities. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, draw a card. So because he's knows everything, so he's a futurist. He's getting more information, and then you can copy target triggered things. And then let's put up the other two, Human Torch and the Thing. The Human Torch says at the beginning of combat, if you cast a non-creature spell, he gains flying, double strike, and haste until end of turn. So basically, if you cast a non-creature spell, he flames on and flies over and blasts him with his flame attack. And then you can pay the 4, and if you do, whenever he deals combat damage to one opponent, he deals combat damage to all opponents. And then the Thing is the one that I think people are most excited about because he gets huge very quickly. He's 5/5 with trample, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, put 4 +1/+1 counters on the Thing, so it becomes 9/9. And then whenever he attacks, you may pay the 4. When you do, you double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents you control, which is extremely powerful. In this scenario, not only would it make him an 18/18 with trample, which is almost enough to kill someone just by himself. If you have anything else like planeswalkers, you double the amount of loyalty counters on them, which in most cases will allow you to ultimate them immediately. But for instance, if you put Captain America in this deck with his shield counter from the first guy, he now have 2 shield counters, which is a big difference from 1 for that particular mechanic. So he's very powerful. They've, I think, done a great job with these. Obviously, we see that there's 1 for each color. You have to spend all 4 colors to activate these things. So it's basically when the Fantastic Four are together, they're much more powerful than they are individually. And because they all have these complementary abilities, when you're playing Commander, and this is a Commander Precon, you can choose whichever one of those 4 you want to be your Commander, and the other 3 will be in your deck. And that allows you, even though you're playing with the same deck of cards, it'll kind of allow you to customize your play style based on who your Commander is going to be, because you can use their abilities a lot more frequently, and you're guaranteed to have their abilities. So I think it's really fun, great design. I can't wait to see the deck list for the rest of the cards. Usually with these precons, they'll have a mix of, sometimes they'll have new cards that are only in these precons. So there'll be several Fantastic Four themed cards that you can only get in the precon or in collector boosters. But then a lot of times they'll also have reprints of classic staples from Magic's past, and hopefully with new Fantastic Four themed artwork. So whatever the 4 decks end up being, the precons, I'm getting all of them. I'll say that right up front. I'm stoked for that. There's a couple other Fantastic Four cards from the regular set that I haven't showed yet because I wanted to sort of do this first, particularly because of the one I'm going to show you now, which is the Super Skrull, who really only makes sense in the context of those Fantastic Four cards. So for those of you who may not be comic fans, the Super Skrull, and you can see it on the artwork here, but the Super Skrull is a Skrull. He's an alien shapeshifter, but he specifically, unlike most of the other Skrulls, when he shapeshifts, he can actually gain the powers of these people he's impersonating, and the Super Skrull can gain the powers of all 4 members of the Fantastic Four just by himself. That's reflected in the card design. He's a 4/5 flying, and he costs 3 black and 1, and he's a villain. So again, a lot of black mana pips. It makes him perfect to go with Doctor Doom and Baron Zemo and these other black villain cards that they've already revealed that are all very heavy in the black mana pips and the villain synergy. But he also has 4 other abilities, 1 of each color. And it's to create a wall, get +4/+4 until end of turn, deal 4 damage to target creature, or draw 4 cards. It's the same abilities that we just saw on the Fantastic Four cards. He can create Sue's Force Bubble. He can make himself much bigger like the Thing. He can burn other creatures for 4 damage like the Human Torch, or he can draw cards and use his super intellect like Reed Richards. It's also a 5-color, for commander purposes, it's a 5-color commander. And he's similar to Kenrith, which is an infamously powerful commander, but they have given his abilities are not as strong as Kenrith's in general, and they also cost more to activate. So Kenrith is kind of overpowered, and they've sort of corrected things with the Super Skrull. I love the thematic elements of this. It's perfect. Like, no notes, 10 out of 10. Super Skrull is great. First appeared in Fantastic Four number 18. So he's a very, very old, classic Fantastic Four villain. One of the earliest. For comparison, just as an example, Galactus didn't appear until issue 48. So the Super Skrull is one of their earliest villains, and the way they've captured the flavor of this is absolutely great. But speaking of Galactus, here's the other Fantastic Four card. This is the last of the cards that they've revealed from the main set so far. Again, they've only revealed 14 cards from the main set. And there's going to be something, I don't know exactly how many, but somewhere between like 230 and 280 cards in the set. So there's so much more to see, and there's a lot of stuff that they've teased in artwork that we have not been revealed yet. And also some characters that have been conspicuously absent, like Daredevil, for instance, or Punisher, and they're coming at some point, and maybe in this set. But we've got here the artwork, 2 versions of the artwork for the saga, The Coming of Galactus. You got the regular version and the comic book version. They're both great in different ways. I love the art on the regular version. Someone named Serena Malion, I'm not familiar, but it looks so cool with the looming figure of Galactus in the stars. Awesome. Looks great. The other one, for comic fans, you'll note that a couple things on this. First of all, it does have Silver Surfer in the artwork here in the first panel. And it's also drawn by Veronica Fish. You know, Veronica Fish is a very well-known and respected comic book creator. I love that they're bringing in Marvel artists and comic book artists to do these things. There's the same with the Spider-Man set. There was a lot of great new artwork from established comic book creators that worked on Spider-Man, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this treatment. They only revealed a couple of the comic book panel treatments, but in the Spider-Man set, these were not limited just to the sagas. There were comic book versions with the text boxes and lettering like a comic book, for something like 15 or 20 of the characters as well. And those are all going to look super cool too. So I love both of these for different reasons. As for the card itself, the turn you put it into play, it destroys a target non-land permanent. Then turn 2, each opponent loses 2 life. Turn 3, each opponent loses 2 life. Turn 4, Galactus appears, and you create a 16/16 alien creature token with flying, trample, and whenever he attacks, you destroy target land. I think it's really cool. It sounds really powerful, but, you know, it costs 5 to put out, and then you have to wait 4 more turns. So unless you're ramping super hard to get it out early, you're not going to see Galactus until turn 9. And it gives your opponent a lot of time to destroy the enchantment or get ready to destroy Galactus. So it's really telegraphed, which it should be, because the whole thing is that the Silver Surfer is the herald of Galactus. He shows up in advance and warns the people that Galactus is coming to destroy your planet. And then there's a wait. So that's fine. The only quibble that I have with this is chapters 2 and 3. Each opponent loses 2 life. Not sure what that represents story-wise. I think they could have done something a little more interesting there. You know, what actually happens in the comics is they spend that time planning what they're going to do to try and defeat Galactus. So if there was something there that had to do with conniving, or, I mean, I don't know, but something, some kind of scrying, I don't know. But my main quibble, and this is going to seem minor, but as a comic book fan, this original story is called the Galactus Trilogy. Issue 48 is where the Silver Surfer shows up and warns everyone that Galactus is coming. Issue 49, the Fantastic Four fight Galactus, and it seems like they've lost and he's going to eat the planet. And then in issue 50, they defeat him and he leaves. The fact that there's 4 chapters on the saga is driving me crazy. It seems like such a minor thing, but it's a trilogy. It's the Galactus Trilogy. There should be only 3 chapters. Chapter 1, fine. Chapter 3, fine. But that chapter's too, like, yeah, that needs, that's just frustrating as from a comic fan that they gave it 4 chapters when there's only supposed to be 3. But everything else about it, great. So that's what we've seen from the new cards, but I also want to show for all the fans out there, the comic fans, I want to show you the bonus sheet cards with the original art from the old comics, which I'm super excited for. And if you're not a comic fan, I also want to show them to you, because I'm going to talk about some about the original art. Some of the newer art I'm not that familiar with, but some of the old art is absolutely classic. I want to start with Heroic Intervention. There's 3 versions of it. I'm going to put them up on screen here. Now, it's really interesting that they've reprinted this, because they just reprinted this in the Spider-Man set. So I totally get the name of the card is a classic. A hero comes in and saves people. In the Spider-Man set, they used the art from Amazing Fantasy 15. The first appearance of Spider-Man was Spider-Man swinging in with a guy under his arm. Here, they've reprinted it 3 times. So Heroic Intervention used to be a card that was a $15 card, and now they're reprinting it, basically 4 printings of it in the space of like 3 months. So the value is going to go way down. I'm fine with that. It makes it's a really good card, which is why it was expensive. But we've got 3 more classic pieces of artwork. The question is going to be, which art do you pick? The only frustration for me as an Avengers fan is that Heroic Intervention is green. And so far, the Avengers cards that they've put out in the previous sets don't use green, except for Black Panther. Captain America, the First Avenger, doesn't have green. Iron Man doesn't have green. And unless they come out with some kind of new Avengers commander that's 4 colors, so you can put green into it, it's going to be really frustrating, particularly because the one you're seeing on the right side of the screen here is the cover of Avengers #1. This is the moment where the Avengers form to fight Loki. It's an intervention by the heroes. And it actually is a heroic intervention because Loki had a whole scheme. Whoops. Then we've got, this is a really interesting one, one I want to highlight. The one in the middle, it's you can see the Wasp is saving Ant-Man from a big monster. This is the cover of Tales to Astonish 44. This is the first appearance of the Wasp, comic that I used to own for a long time, but I did sell it a few years ago. A really cool choice. One of the reasons I wanted to make this video is I see a lot of I've watched a lot of videos from Magic streamers and YouTube personalities who know a lot about Magic, more than I do. But most of them don't know anything about comics, and I think it's really hard to judge the flavor of the cards and how well they translate and stuff like that if you don't know comics, because I've seen some wild takes from some of the Magic influencers in terms of the artwork and different things, because they just don't know what they're talking about in terms of the comics themselves. So this is a great cover. It's not just the Wasp saving Ant-Man. It's the Wasp. This is the first time anyone's ever seen the Wasp. So she's literally coming out of nowhere to save Ant-Man. Finally, the panel that everyone that's not a comic fan seemed to be the most excited about is the one on the left that's got the Hulk holding up the mountain. That's the cover of Secret Wars #4, a series that came out in the mid 80s. Came out right when I got into comics. I'm not a Hulk fan, and it is a cool cover, but I've never, actually been that big of a fan of this cover, probably because I just don't care for the Hulk that much. So I think it's totally cool, and it's cool on this card. It makes perfect flavor sense. Yeah, it's not my, of these three, as an Avengers fan, the other two I much prefer to this one. So, particularly since I already have the Spider-Man one with the Amazing Fantasy 15 cover, of these four, if I'm putting Heroic Intervention in one of my decks, it's going to be one of those other three. This will be my last choice. But a lot of people love this. I'm seeing a lot of really positive reactions to this, so that's great. I did want to show Horn of Greed being reprinted. Now, this is kind of a meme card, but there's a couple interesting things on here. This is from Spidey Super Stories, which was not in continuity, but was a kids-themed thing, that came out in conjunction with Spider-Man appearing on the Electric Company, which I remember watching in the 70s as a kid. And this panel has become a big meme. There's an altered version that has more about tooting. So there's a lot of people that love this because of the meme factor. That's fine. The most interesting thing for me is the number on this card. So this is way down in the bottom left corner. It has the set name symbol, which it's MAR is the abbreviation for this set, and then it's got the number. There were 40 of these in the Spider-Man set. So these in the Marvel set are starting the numbering with 41. And this is the highest number of the ones that they've shown. And it is number 98. Now, there's a certain order to how they do these. And this is an artifact, which I think is the end. It's the last thing in the numbering should be the artifacts, I think. I'm not sure if lands come before or after artifacts. But it suggests to me, we know from this card that there's going to be at least 58 of these bonus sheet cards, and probably more. If we have an artifact with a 3 casting cost at number 98, there's probably going to go up to 100. So I'm going to guess there's going to be around 60 cards on the bonus sheet. That's more than there usually are, a little bit more. That might have to be partly because they're doing 3 different versions of Heroic Intervention. There might be other cards that they're doing multiple versions of. I don't know. I'll show a couple that have great flavor wins. Here is Extinction Event. So it's perfect. Of course, it's from Infinity Gauntlet, drawn by the late, great George Perez, the moment where Thanos snaps his fingers. And it's a home run flavor win, because Extinction Event as a card is one where you choose odds or evens and then destroy all the creatures in play that have the odd or the even toughness, or I think it is, and maybe power. Let me double check. Mana value. Okay, so whatever the mana value is. So it's perfect because, of course, he's snapping to destroy half of the universe in the movies, at least. So that's just great. Great flavor win. Another great flavor win is this Kang card. The card's called Dig Through Time, and it has this tremendous Kang artwork. Not familiar with this cover. Again, I haven't been reading Marvel in about 15 years, so I'm very familiar with everything from Marvel before that, particularly before like 2004. But some of these newer ones, I'm not 100% sure where the source is, but Kang is my favorite supervillain, so I'm stoked for this. I can't wait to see what the Kang card does. I would love it if there was a whole Kang precon, but that's not going to happen. But it's a great choice of card. And then we've also got a really good choice with the Chaos Warp. So here's Wanda the Scarlet Witch. This is from House of M, where she said no more mutants and changed the whole world. Whatever, I'm not a fan of that stuff. I hated everything they did with Scarlet Witch after about 2004. Having said that, it's perfect. It's a perfect card choice based on how her powers used to be back in the day. It used to be when she was, before they made her the most powerful character in Marvel or whatever. She originally wasn't that powerful. She was actually one of the weaker members of the team originally, and they slowly raised her power throughout the run. But what her power originally did was she had the Hex Bolts, where she would curse people, and that would basically cause them to have very unlikely bad luck things happening. So the Chaos Warp is a great representation of that, because Chaos Warp, you put their card, their card goes away, and then they reveal the top card of the library, their deck, and put it into play. So it's kind of like it has that random accident choice to it. So I like that. And then we've got a couple Namor cards here. We've got Lord of Atlantis and the Harbinger of the Seas. Two classic artists. I'm not a huge fan of Michael Turner, who did the one on the left, but it's really cool looking. And the right, it's amazing to have Mike Mignola artwork on a Magic card, because he's one of the greats. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. And it's two more Merfolk, Namor Merfolk. So with these reprints, I mean, you could very easily put together a Namor Merfolk deck with all of these Namors. So that's tremendous. And I mean, I like Namor. He's not my favorite, but I do like him. I'm a big fan of Captain Monica Rambeau. We used to call her Captain Monica because when I started reading comics, she was Captain Marvel. Then they stripped the name away from her, and they just like really wrecked the character. They just spent about a decade dumping all over the character before eventually they started rehabbing her. Great character, amazing artwork. Again, I'm not familiar with where this is from. Obviously, it's newer. You can tell just by the art style, but it looks great. And I'm a big fan of Monica Rambeau, so that's going to go in some decks. I already have Ephemerate. They put out a version of Ephemerate with Spider-Man artwork and the Spider-Man Secret Lair. It's a little bit weird that they're reprinting again already with more Marvel artwork. But I'd, rather have this than the Spider-Man artwork, so that'll be going in here. It's interesting, this reprinted Dauthi Voidwalker. It's got a Adam Hughes cover. I saw some people, it blows my mind reading on online Magic fan reaction to some of the artwork, some of the comic artwork. Adam Hughes is not my favorite, but he's an absolute fan favorite. People pay through the nose for Adam Hughes covers. And there's people dumping all over this artwork, which is just wild to me. What's more interesting is that it's not called Black Widow because Dauthi Voidwalker is not a legendary creature, so they gave it a more generic name, the Widow-making Infiltrator, but obviously it's Black Widow. Another legend of comics is Bill Sienkiewicz, and here's Elektra. Now this is a perfect flavor win because the card that Elektra is being reprinted as was a card called Massacre Girl. It's a very popular commander card, and it's a very strong card, but it's perfect for Elektra. It's perfect. And to have the Bill Sienkiewicz Elektra artwork on a Magic card is amazing. And then finally, another legendary comic artist, who again is not one of my favorites, but I really like some of his stuff. It's Alex Ross, and here he is with the Hulk. And this, again, is a super flavor win. Force of Vigor. Destroy up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments, and you can see it's a picture of Hulk destroying a tank. So he's destroying an artifact in the artwork, and it looks amazing. So these all look tremendous. Great use of the source material. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these, and I want more old ones, because what I really love is the ones that have artwork from the 60s and 70s on it. There's quite a few from the Spider-Man set that have vintage classic art, and I can't wait to see that. And I'm really excited to see more of the comic book cover artwork. They have to do a Punisher card where you flip where it's got the Amazing Spider-Man 129 cover and stuff like that. Like, I thought they did way too few of those. In Spider-Man, they only did 3. with the covers, and they needed to do way more. They wanted to have those be the chase cards, but like that was the coolest thing they did in the set, or it would have been if anyone could get them. So I just want more of those, more sagas, and more of these. And the card design looks so much better in this set than in Spider-Man. As big of a comic book fan as I am, that set was not good. It was not good. And it wasn't that fun to play with and limited either. This already looks 1,000 times better than that. Having said that, they did some good stuff in Spider-Man, and that we've already seen that all the stuff that I liked in the Spider-Man set, they're bringing it all back here. So I'm super excited for this. I hope this has been interesting for some of you, whether you're Magic fans or comic fans. And I'll be back with more videos about this when they reveal more. And I can't wait to see the precons. Hopefully they're Avengers precons. So let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you next time.